Suffolk Pod Show is produced and managed by podtalk.co.uk. I'm Mark Mason.
And I'm Susannah Hornby. It's a special day today. We've got 4 people sitting around us who visit here once a month as part of a really exciting group that use the space here at the new Wolsey Theatre, and that's the Wolsey Writers. More about them in a minute. Let's set the scene. It's hot, isn't it? Everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's warm.
It's warm. We're sitting in the glass box, which is in the upper bar at the new Wolsey Theatre. It's a very hot, sunny September morning. We're all inspired and everyone's just come out of their group, so we're ready to go. I'll introduce everybody individually, but I'm going to quickly go around the room. First off, come to the mic, Katie Ward.
Hello.
And Susannah Brindle.
Hi, hello.
Helen Wright.
Hi.
And Roy Haddock.
Hi.
And they're all writers of different forms or whatever. We're going to start with Katie. Now, Katie Ward has been an author for quite some time. Really interesting career, actually. So, Katie, where do you want to start? Should we talk about what inspired you to become a writer first?
Oh gosh, what inspired me to become a writer? I always wanted to write. And when I was younger, I really thought that I was going to do journalism. That was kind of my first love. But what I found is the more that you write, the more you have an opportunity to discover what kind of writer you are. And so, like, for example, there are 4 of us around the table who are, writers, and you as well. You write copy and all that kind of thing as well. So, like, we do different kinds of writing. And the only way we kind of learn what we're good at is by trying a lot of different things. And I've always been an overthinker. And I found that I wanted to write longer. And I also wanted to, rather than report things that had happened, I wanted to create characters, create stories. And so, yeah, writing long form fiction is what I found to be my thing. And I think I really kind of discovered that probably, I was still at university when I started trying to write my first novel. And now I am in my 40s and I've been doing it, for like 25 years. So, yeah, it's stuck.
The award you won was for which novel? Tell us a little bit about that one.
So I have 2 published books. One is called Girl Reading, and I call that my art novel. And that's the one I won the Clarissa Luard Award for. And it was published in the UK and the US, and it was translated into Korean. And but people sometimes who are familiar with Girl Reading might be surprised that my new novel, Pathways, instead of being about art, it's about neuroscience. Mm-hmm. Instead of being historical, it's contemporary. And it's just come out earlier this year. And total kind of difficult second novel vibes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You've done it once. To outdo yourself a second time must be quite a challenge. But this is a completely different book, Pathways. It's about 2 women.
Yes.
Completely different.
Yeah. So Pathways is a contemporary novel about a sort of stepmother-stepdaughter relationship. And the stepmother is called Cara. And she is a very dedicated neuroscientist with a research post in Cambridge. And her sort of almost stepdaughter, Heather, is a young person who really is very impulsive and not dedicated to anything. So keep saying almost stepmother, stepdaughter. The point of the book is you have these 2 very different women with completely different outlooks in life who don't owe each other anything. They are not biological family. They are not legal family. So when they have a big, massive bust up, the question is, can they ever reconcile? That's what the book is about.
You have an interest in philosophy. You have a degree in philosophy. Was that what that comes from?
I did major in philosophy. I went to university and I went to City University in London in the journalism school. And out of a cohort of, I guess, like 40 journalists that year, I was the only person who then majored in my social science, which was philosophy. Mm-hmm. I've been interested in philosophy since I was a teenager. And for people who might or might not be interested in philosophy as well, Pathways is actually inspired by the mind-body problem, what is also called the hard problem of consciousness. So it's this idea about our interiority, what we think and feel, or our souls, our desires, versus us as physical people with, bodies and skin and aging and health problems. So that's one of the the inspirations behind the book.
Yeah, I thought it might be. Now, before we talk to everybody else, I just want to ask you why you set up Wolsey Writers.
I was just talking to Susannah before this, and we realised that I set it up back in 2015. So it's almost like we're coming up to our 10-year anniversary. But the reason that I set it up is because I remember how I felt before I was published. I remember having like my first draft novel and getting rejected 40 times, 41 times, 42 times, 43 times, and how that felt, and not having a community to draw on for support. So I really set up Wolsey Writers to be the creative writing group that I wish had existed when I was unpublished. And it started as like a group of maybe sort of 6 or 7 people backstage, and now we occupy the upstairs bar at the theatre, and today there was like 36 people.
Yeah, so, it was extraordinary walking in.
It was a big turnout today.
Can I just describe what it was like walking into the upper bar? Okay, so the cafe bar is always quite noisy. There are people drinking coffee, working, doing whatever, chatting away, meetings. I walked into complete silence. 37 people scribbling away. There was a real vibe. It felt amazing. I came around the corner and went, "Hi, Katie," and he went, "Shh, we're working." Anyway, it looks fabulous, and everybody looked completely absorbed in what they were doing. And that brings me on to, I'm going to go straight over to Helen first. This is Helen, who is a comedian.
Yes, I am, and have been all my life, as my mother would tell you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I joined Wolsey Writers at the end of the pandemic. I can remember us sitting over in the New Wolsey 2 and all wearing masks and then taking them off at one point, and it was just like I felt I found my village, to be honest. I've always loved writing, and I think I was in year 2 of doing an Open University degree in English literature and creative writing. I'd always intended to do a degree in something business related, and then I went with my heart and I went back to what I love, which I love writing, and I love just coming up with short stories. And what I've found over the last couple of years is my genre. I always thought I'd write like psychological thrillers about murders, but I think that's just people that get on my nerves. I'm probably just thinking
wish fulfillment.
I think so. But what I found is I tend towards comedy, and I've always used humour in my life, in my work life. I work in IT, and you need a lot more humour. And I've always been seen as like someone, if I'm doing a presentation, it's interesting, it's got, we'll talk, we'll laugh, and there's kind of something for everybody because it's a dry subject. But now I've got into stand-up comedy, which was inspired by coming to Wolsey Writers, in that we had someone come in and talk about comedy, and it just fired something in me. Yeah. And so not only am I then like writing madly whenever I can, I'm now going out gigging once or twice a week in a local area on my tour, and it's a tour of bars and pubs, which a lot of people do that without doing stand-up comedy. They just go to the pub, but it's been absolutely enlightening. But I've also said to people, stand-up comedy feels really indulgent because you get to talk about stuff that you want to talk about. It's very therapeutic, and I've made no secret of that. I've had some mental health struggles, particularly when you hit the big M of menopause. But I found my funny again. It's absolutely lovely. And it's really interesting because I've been sharing videos of the gigs that I've done. And some of my family members have gone, "I didn't know you were funny." And I'm like, seriously, people, you have been missing out for years if you didn't know I was funny. But it's inspirational. I mean, today we were writing about animal fables, and I was like scribbling away, got my animal fable down. I was like, yes. And I come away from Wolsey Writers wanting to go home and write. Yeah. That's how I feel. The group is just so nice. We all support each other, and it's, I've had hobbies before, but this is not a hobby. This is in me. And thanks to Katie, she'll cry in a minute at this if I keep on. But it really is, and it allows people to expand themselves.
Yeah.
And I loved writing when I was at school, and I will read like it's going out of fashion. So I think, having been discouraged from being a creative person, I wanted to be an actress when I was at school, instead of which work in IT. So there you go. It's a case of there's somewhere for people to go, that you can just be you can write about things. It's all good. Whether you're going to write something dark, something light, something comedy, something instructive. I have written a self-help book. Okay. And I have sent it out and been rejected thoroughly. So I'm a proper writer now, having been rejected. But I think the inspiration that I've had from Wolsey Writers is I'm going to go back to it. Okay. I'm going to go back to it because it will need more development. So I might have already redrafted it about 20 times. There's more drafts to come, and it's very much based on my life work experience. And I do quite often talk to people about, I'm actually a happiness coach. That's my life now. I want other people to be happy. I want to be happy. And if I tell a few kind of crazy stories that make people laugh, that's good too.
It's good. Helen, you have funny bones.
I do.
Roy?
Well, similar. I came to Wolsey Writers just after the pandemic. I was in my late 50s, and thank you for the help with the Zimmer frame to get me to the mic. But
it's a pleasure.
But no, and I knew I wanted to write something, and I'd written things for since I was a teenager. And it's one of those things that you stumble across something that you think, I don't know whether I'm going to fit in here. I don't know whether I'm intelligent enough. And without wanting to make Katie cry, the first time that I walked into the room and I didn't know anybody, I suddenly found myself immersed in what can only be described really as happiness and love.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing feeling when people come up and say to you, yeah, you're a writer.
Yeah.
You can write. And for my journey, in the 2 or 3 years that I've been here, I suddenly found myself being able to write plays. Mm-hmm. I've had plays read and performed, and it's down to Wolsey Writers. And then that pushed me on to be inspired to actually go back to university at the age of 61 and do an MA in creative writing. And suddenly that's opened a load of doors.
Yeah.
And so however old you are, however old you think you are, there's a voice inside you that has to come out. And I've got to thank Katie for that. She won't want me to, but I have to thank her. It's just, I'm afraid you're going to get a lot of that on this podcast, I'm afraid. But that's the truth. Being able to have somebody not judge you, but just encourage your what talent you have. And that's a point I'd like to make, really, that all of us sitting around this room have different talents. And you may not think that you have a talent, but you will have an inner voice. And I always like to say, mind your own weirdness. That's
love that. Yeah.
That's a thing to do.
Yeah.
Mind your own weirdness and get your voice out there. And it's amazing. From a monologue that I wrote to be in an open mic night, there's a play come out of that. And it's grown, and to hear 100 people laugh when you've written a joke and feel the mood change on words that you've written is a surreal experience.
I was going to ask you all this, Susannah, we are coming to you, you're sitting so patiently, but to all of you, when you're writing a story, a play, a piece of comedy, are you writing it as if you were reading it as a reader, or are you just splurging the story? How does it work in your mind? Do you imagine how that comes across as a reader?
So one of the things that I try to provide a space for is for people to try different approaches to their writing. What you're talking about, the splurge, we sometimes do free writing, which is the idea of just splurge. There are no there's nothing, you're not making any mistakes, even if you're just kind of like drawing a picture of a dog whilst you're thinking about whatever. Just let it go, let it flow, see what comes out, and that you get some interesting kind of moments of serendipity when you do that. On the other hand, it is very useful to understand some of the fundamentals. So, for example, beginning, middle, end of a story, or what the 5-act structure is, or experimenting with different forms. So today, as Helen said, we were doing about animal fables, and it was this idea of writing in a very clear, accessible, simplistic, I use that in quote marks, voice, but having a real kind of deep intent behind it, a message, or maybe a moral or a life lesson or a piece of advice you want to pass on. Next time is, the next time we meet is going to be October. So we're going to do ghost stories, and we're going to have a visitor from University of Suffolk called Lindsay Scott, and she's kind of a bit of a spook expert. So we're going to experiment.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fun, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be fun too. It's not all supposed to be serious and rejection.
We're having the unknown visitor, the ghost writer.
There's a ghost in the Wolsey. Did you not know that?
So it's this idea of like, when you're writing, you can come here, you can try different things and find out what kind of approach works for you, or what kind of form or genre.
I think also sometimes it depends on what your idea is. You sometimes find yourselves, and it's one of the things of like, do you always carry a notebook with you, or do you carry Post-its with you? Because sometimes you just have to write that down, because as we get older, we forget stuff. But you then find that you then write another Post-it, because like, well, after that could happen that. And then you find that you've got a little bit of a plan. Yeah. And then there's other days where you just have to write and free write to get it going. So I think that's one of the things that it definitely has, is knowing that structure and helping us understand that. But at the same point, you can do what you like. I'm terrible. I'm a free writer most of the time. Free talker as well.
We didn't notice. No, I'm just kidding. Susannah has been waiting here so patiently and so brilliantly. Tell us about your writing.
Well, I'm currently writing a novel with the support of Wolsey Writers and Katie over the years. It's a kind of domestic noir, but with a bit of a twist, where it's not so often in domestic noirs. It's the husband who turns out to be the dangerous person. And in this, it's possibly the child, but we don't know yet. We haven't quite reached the end.
Okay.
And just in about my writing, I think I've always wanted to be a writer. I wrote as a child. I wrote endless diaries. I came across one recently clearing out some stuff that said, I've made a decision about my life. When I grow up, I'm going to write best-selling novels. What I haven't decided is how I'm going to spend all the money I will make from them. Sadly, what I've realised is, that you don't make a lot of money from writing, but I absolutely still love it. And I'm still trying to write that best-selling novel. But coming to Wolsey Writers over the years, so I think I started maybe 9 years ago, right towards the beginning, and it was in a small room at the back of the theatre with no outside windows, like a little skylight, and I'd wonder what the weather was like. And there was it was a small group, and it has grown and grown since then, and moved from that small little dark box to the beautiful bar area with lovely views and lovely cappuccinos and
slightly more inspiring.
Very, very inspiring now. And as the others have said, I just so appreciate. I think Katie holds it with such care and kindness, and I just really feel all of us in the group that she's just got your back, whether you are writing a novel or you're writing or you've never written. I sat next to someone today and she said, have you ever been here before? And I said, well, yeah, I've been a few times. She said, I've never been, but no, it's really interesting, isn't it? And it feels like every week there are people who've been coming for years who maybe, are quite successful, have published, do their stand-up, and others who are coming, dipping their toe in the water for the first time. And it feels like everybody's really welcome.
Mm. And you keep coming back. I mean, like we just said earlier, the group is growing and growing. Roy, it looks like you wanted to say something there.
I was going to say, I think the thing I love is that it's not just people who want to write novels. It's not just people who want to write plays. There's poetry. There's any type of literature at all is handled at Wolsey Writers, and nobody is pretentious or I'm better than you. Or it's a community that thrives on its success, really.
Well, that's very beautifully put. Katie is just avoiding. No, she's gone. She is definitely.
This is what happens all the time. Is we say something nice, but it's a great feeling to come somewhere. And Roy said, he loves coming here. We do love coming here, and it's that amount of not just creative passion, but passion for each other. That we actually care for each other, and we're interested in what everyone's writing, and we learn so much from each other as well.
I suppose the impact for me is that I now use the Wolsey as my place of inspiration. So if I get stuck, I'll come and sit up here and have a coffee on my own, and it's like I'm in the room with everybody else. That sounds really weird, doesn't it?
No, Roy, thank you for saying that.
but it's the truth, and it's my place now. And as I said, Katie keeps her light hidden under a bushel very well. She doesn't like to put herself forward, but she has inspired not just people who are here now, but there are other people who have gone on from the group who have done sort of great things, and it's each achievement should be noted down really on a little wall of honour.
Yes. You hiding your light under a bushel. I mean, you are an extraordinary writer. You are an extraordinary person too. You're so full of humility and so kind, and it flows out of you, Katie. I'm just really trying to make her cry now. No, and such a strong person too, throughout your life. You have been through quite some times in your life too. And actually when you and I met, it was when you restarted the Wolsey Writers. I remember talking to you. That was the first time I met you about 3.5 years ago. Oh, You'd just come back from going abroad, I think. So it was that moment in your life. So,
well, if we're talking about kind of the coming back, we mentioned the pandemic a couple of times as well. I mean, I had a breast cancer experience. There was the pandemic. It affected, obviously affected everybody, but theatres in a very specific way. And I did have a moment of thinking, right, well, if I don't want to do Wolsey Writers anymore, now is the time to stop it. And then I kind of thought, well, I'll just do a couple and just see if people are interested again. And then I think it was lovely that new people used that moment to join. But what I'm really grateful for is people like Susannah and others who, we sort of talk about this community that is not sort of sitting at this table right now, this very moment. The people who came back after the gap, like that was really special to me, that people still remembered and still wanted to explore that, they still had a story to tell or work to create. And that was lovely. I mean, and the other thing, we're talking about all these different kind of genres and experiments, and this is a place to experiment and to find out what kind of a writer you are. But it is such a kind of tricky provocation for me that I've got people like Susannah who've been coming for almost 10 years, and then completely new people who came today for the first time. How do I find a way to kind of keep encouraging people, nudging people, making it interesting, making it enjoyable? And part of what I get out of this group is just their positivity, their energy, the way they, Helen's, for example, Helen's journey. I'm mindful we're sitting in the theatre. Our theme that day was the Scottish play. Yeah. That's what Andrea Smith brought with her. And just kind of taking that and turning that into something that's so kind of your point of view and what you wanted to write about. I find that so inspiring. And so, I get great energy from everyone else, and that's why we keep meeting up.
Well, I'd love to talk to you for hours, but I think really it's time to finish up. Anybody else got anything they'd like to, apart from hailing Katie as being whatever?
All hail. Yeah. I think one thing I'd just like to say is this is an open community and anyone can actually come to Wolsey Writers. You can just, click yourself on the website and book in. And you only get one life. If you fancied giving it a go, you fancied writing things, and anyone said to you, "Oh, you'll never be able to do that," of course you can. Of course you can. And you'll find a place here. And
you're also welcoming. So no matter at what level, it might be the first time you're putting pen to paper, and you'd be terrified and thinking, all of you lot, you're very experienced and all the rest of it. But not the case. And it doesn't matter whether you've been writing books for years and years or whether you've just suddenly found that inner self and got that little passion of thinking, I could do that.
And just to say, do have a look at Katie's novels because they're so wonderfully written. Pathways came out. Yeah, it came out a few months ago, and it is just so lyrical and beautiful and funny. Move it. I cried and I laughed. I just really can't recommend it enough.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And when Katie launched, all the Wolsey Writers people came and supported her because go Katie. Team Katie.
Yeah.
Team
Yeah.
Katie.
Any final thoughts, Roy? Thought for the day?
I think the thing is that, as I said, we all have an inner voice. Let yours out. Come and see us. Have a coffee, bit of cake, and find out you're a writer.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's perfect. Thank you very much for all of that. So the Wolsey Writers meets on the first Saturday of every month between 10:30am and 12pm. And they meet right here at the new Wolsey Theatre in Ipswich on Civic Drive. Obviously, Katie Ward runs the sessions. And as you've heard, there's all sorts of tips to improve your creative practice, focused writing time, peer support and inspiration. And writers of all ages are welcome, 18 plus. Is that right?
It's for grown-ups.
Yeah, it's for grown-ups.
Grown-ups and quote unquote.
Yeah, I get you. And you pay what you like. Yeah, that's me out.
I know. I'm gone.
And you pay what you feel. That's how it works.
So up to, from 0 to 20 quid.
Yep.
Whatever is right for you, make it work for you.
Okay, that's fantastic. Okay, check out the website, wolseytheatre.co.uk. Go into what's on and click on Wolsey Writers to book your place for next October, coming and forever, because this podcast will be out forever. So every first Saturday of the month.
Ooh.
Wow.
No pressure.
That's a hell of a commitment.
Okay, you can find these guys on Instagram and Twitter, X at Wolsey Writers, or on Facebook at Katie Ward Writer. Thanks very much, everybody, for coming and sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Suffolk Pod Show. Find us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, or you can visit our website, podtalk.co.uk. And here's our disclaimer.
The Suffolk Pod Show will not be held responsible for any omissions or errors in its podcast.
The Suffolk Pod Show is produced purely for entertainment purposes. Views and opinions are that of our own or that of our guests.